Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to another episode of Connect with the Quran. And Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma, Rabbi habli hukmin wal hiqni bisalihin. So today we're going to start looking at a new series of surahs. And it's as we finished with Surah Tawbah, in which it was we were told how the victory was going to happen, the Fatah Makkah, and so on. And from now on, from Surah 10, which is what we're going to be looking at today, Surah Yunus, all the way up to Surah 24, which is Surah Nur, it's considered by some mufassir, by one particular mufassir, a group. So we've done one group, which was from Surah Baqarah to Surah Ma'idah, then the next group from Surah Anam to Surah Tawbah. And then we were now we're on to this third group. And each group has a Makki surah, like Surah Fatiha was Makki, the next four were Madani. Then in this group two, there were two Makki and two Madani. Now we're back to a whole series of Makki surahs, and then the last one being Surah Nur will be a Madani surah. So in this way, they're being grouped together. The basic message in all of these surahs, from Surah Yunus all the way up to Surah, just the one before Surah Nur, is going to be on Tawheed, Risala, Akhirah, and it's the biggest, and they consider it like the Makki garden. So what is it that it's told? It's in the period of when they were in Makkah, in the middle, the end period also, when things were very hard. So what the Muslims are basically taught there in Makkah, it's a twofold message. It's a message that just hang in there with your deen, and hold on to it no matter what happens, and to give them solace, they're given stories from the past, whether it's in Hud alayhi salam, Saleh alayhi salam, what happened to their people. When we come to Surah Yusuf, it's specifically about him, and it's a whole source of solace. So that's where this series is going. And then just to specifically, and you can draw from each of the surah, Surah Hud, Surah Yusuf, on Surah Hijr, Ibrahim, Rad before that, what is the theme that is continuing? So that you can pick up. It's a bit more detailed analysis to do that. But the basic thing is that you need to take solace. You are going to win through. And this is reiterated again and again through this surah. And it pairs well with Surah Hud. In Surah Yunus, it's similar things I've talked about here. We will have a longer conversation about Surah Musa alayhi salam, and a little bit of Surah of Nuh alayhi salam. And in Surah Hud, it will flip. It will be longer on Surah, very little on Surah on Musa alayhi salam, and a lot more on Nuh alayhi salam. And they are reciprocal in that some of the subject matters are just touched upon here, and they're left open in Surah Yunus. In Surah Hud, they come to a more fruition of saying, look, this is what the end is going to be. So in that sense, it balances out. And there are, Iman is covered, other things are covered, and then, you can go through in blocks of not necessarily rukus, but these ayahs to these ayahs talk about this message, these ayahs to these ayahs talk about that. And here in Surah Yunus, it's only telling you a snippet of what happened to the people of the past and how they were destroyed when they didn't believe, when they had the Rasul within them. Because the key thing is, when you've got a guidance giving to you while you're there, and even then you're being obstinately not wishing to take heed, well, then it calls for, your destruction. That's been the sunnah of Allah. With the Quraysh, which we saw in Surah Tawbah, it was different. What came up there was that you had to, just the conquest of Makkah itself was such a big defeat for them, like that punishment was there. Either you now still come together and you become Muslim, or you've lost the plot, and then you need to vacate these lands and just evacuate it. So that was there. Here, we're told already in Surah Yunus, even because Tawbah was a Madani surah, and it closed off there. Here we're going back to a Makki phase of reminding that, you're giving constant solace, that just hang in there. And for us, as a take home message for us today, of what we need to be doing is looking at in our own thing of how we feel so much Islamophobia, Muslims aren't making it, and everything. Yes, that's the outer show, but you just use this time to strengthen your inner, your iman, your tawheed, your akhirah, your risala, your iman, your akhlaq, your everything. Just consolidate on that. There was this beautiful recent thing I just read about how somebody had a dream and they wanted to tell it to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they were too shy, so they told it to somebody else. They took it. They said, "No, that's." It was like double-edged dream, a bit of not such a nice thing. And basically they said, no, he's a very nice person, but what he needs to take home is that he must do more Qiyam al-Layl. And we know that we've discussed how important Qiyam al-Layl is. And time and again, for us to take heed in today's life, and when we are complaining, maybe Hajj wasn't right, it was inefficient, people don't take care. Before we stop blaming the outside, we need to be looking inside of where can we be correcting ourselves and where can we be fixing ourselves. And that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told that person, and then it was in another context. He was said, no, she's a good person because she does a lot of qiyam al-layl, and she does a lot of fasting. So those are things that, at a personal level, you can do, and the other thing is that start with yourself. Before we get into community, the community should do this, and the community should do this, and we should do this. The first person you can work on is yourself. Before you go outside and try and fix other things, make dua at the middle of the night that, Ya Allah, let us all be like-minded in our will to get our unity going. So I'm extrapolating that from these Makki surahs of Surah Yunus. It is talking about how difficult it was for them then, but what is the take-home message that we can take? Be patient and fasbiru innal aqibatu lil muttaqin, because the final end is for the muttaqin, because we will eventually win through that again and again. And the way for us to become more confident in that is that we need to work on ourselves. Back to do your fasting Monday, Thursday, middle of the month, and so on, and also the Qiyam al-Layl. They do say it's like an arrow straight to the heart, and Allah will hear your dua. So we need to be, before we even work on it, be making dua. Yes, we need to always do practical things, get out there, get our hands dirty, do what we need to do. But when we do that, let's not get frustrated about it. Let's not get frustrated into, oh, people don't listen, they don't do. Let's work on ourselves first of what we can. So the success of the beliefs, if they can just be patient for us today, and it works for us just as much, that we need to back to the idea of ground yourself, make yourself inner strong, and that by the time we come to Medina, you will be better placed to be able to take care of that. So this idea is repeated over and over again in these surahs, in Surah Yunus, and we will get to now after also in the, which I love, of the 9th and 10th surah of this, which we heard in the recording, is when it says, وَآخِرُ دَعْوَاهُمْ أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, that eventually this is what you will be saying in Akhirah. And that's another beautiful passage, 9 and 10, if you read it, of Surah Yunus, in which it says they will be in fine dwellings with the rivers flowing under. So that connects back to the idea of how whenever the idea of the streams flowing under and you are there, what it implies is, it's the best real estate. If you look at anything, it's the best one is where you've got a beautiful view, your home, and underneath is all these pleasurable things. And the beauty of all of that is that, Allah gives us a glimpse of similes of what we can relate to. Like time and again, he talks of the earth, of the sky, the heavens, the sun and moon, all of that. When you look at those things, you need to be looking at something inside too. How is it related to how is it my organs work? How is it that my heart works? How is it that the heart is the seat of intelligence, the seat of rationale, also of the basic? And they do say now that the heart has its own mind. So it's there that things need to be solid in order for your mind or your intellect to be following lead on that. So that's it. And then the other thing that happens is uh, you will see, we'll continue now a little bit of where these other surahs take it from, a little bit of what Surah Ra'd says, of Surah Yusuf says, and so on, of how the themes continue. So I'm not giving you the full of Surah Yusuf, but just giving you an overview. That's what it's designed to do. So if we read these surahs, it's back time and again how remember the Akhirah. Remember that Rasulullah is the way to get to him. So, like today, we want to reinvent the wheel, we want to do other things, but that's not what works. So, inshallah, when we come back, we will look at that again and take it from there. So, we'll just take a short pause and we'll be back soon. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back. We're looking at Surah Yunus in Connect with the Quran here, and I'll try and take you a little bit through of where the surahs, how it's broken down, how it starts with. You'll notice the next few, there's a series which starts with Alif Lam Ra. These are the huruf muqattat, and there are extrapolations of what it could mean, what they are for, but at the end of the day, only Allah knows. I love, and I just reiterated, part of they say it's an attention grabbing technique also of Alif or Lam Ra said aloud, and so you gets your attention and then you listen. And usually what it says is that often these ayahs after that it's talking about, so these first two ayahs in the Quran is talking about it's a wise message, and just because the prophet is bringing it to you, he's from among you, you don't wish to believe in it, and you're not willing to believe in it, in this message. So it's like, but he's living within you, and so why is it so hard for you to believe what he says? Then Allah switches in 3 and 4, and instead of talking about the book and the messenger, he talks about himself, that I am the master. So, don't you realize, because they did acknowledge that there's God, but then they like to have all these idols which will act as props at any times as intercession. So it's that idea of intercession that we need to break up, that it's why the mushrik felt that they don't take the religion seriously is because they felt that these idols, these people, they will save them, and that that's their connection. They don't make us get rid of our intercessors because it's easy to play around with it. Oh, he's my friend. Like even at work, we talk about, well, I've got my uncle there, so never mind if I goof off, if I don't do what I can. This ultimately, even if we look at it today, so we're not in shirk, we are Muslims, we are, we think, but the shirk element comes in when we, and the word shirk is used in order to say that when you don't fulfill your duty and somebody's going to bail you out. Man, doesn't matter. I'll just do a slapdash job and that's going to get me to heaven or whatever, or to get me even by in my dunya of, never mind, I'll just, somebody will bail me out. My sister, my mother, my something else. And so we have these tendencies that we do these things. And so the Tawheed factor that is reiterated time and again is that there's no intercessor. It's between you and between Allah. And you are directly responsible for what you're doing, and take ownership of your actions. This is also one of the key messages that keeps coming up in Makki Quran, is take ownership of your action. You are in charge of what you are doing, and don't pass the buck that so-and-so will bail me out or so-and-so will bail me out. It needs to be you yourself taking care of it. And then there's a transition at 11 and 12 that Allah is talking about before He's talking about the people who don't believe that there's a purpose and there's intercession, and this also that Ahman, who's seen the Akhirah? We haven't seen it. We only go by whatever is visual, and that there won't be. So there is a transition of addressing that, and then it goes on to addressing what the Muslims of how many people before you made a mess of hash of things. So you need to start coming on track and seeing what needs to be done. So and then it's solace to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that that don't you worry if they don't take heed. If they are saying that no, you must, because people are always negotiating. Look at on the table, on corporate tables and anything. They're always negotiating. No, you listen to us, we listen to you. It's always about getting your way. It's not about you submitting to what is there to submit to. So they're reminded, listen, this is the message. There is no changing about on this. And our Rasul time and again has been told that there's not going to be any fluctuation on this is it, whether you out of... and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself was groomed into knowing, I can't change things of my own. It's got nothing to do with me. It's not me that's there doing anything. It's by Allah's decree. So so don't just say to me, often they'd like to say, oh, but we're happy with Rasul, with God, but it's everything that they don't like, they will pass it to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he's the one who's giving them these things. So as it moves on later on in about Surah Ayah 24 to 27, they then they said, look, we've had enough of you talking, just bring on the punishment. And this is when, when they feel so confident, people in power, and they do say, ah man, like election, anything, you can see the ex-president here or there, they never think they're going to be removed from their seat. They never think. They think they've got the army on their side, they've got the whole bureaucracy on their side. They can't imagine for an instant that they will be wiped away. And you can look at any country, of whether it's on the Arab Spring times or other things, who has been taken away, who then makes it back again. So this is an ongoing thing. So to help them understand how powers and tables can turn, Allah gives parallels in the passages of the times of old, of how, what happened to the Fir'aun, what happened to, So first, he also gives an example, right? And this is so often given in the Quran of landscape, of greenery, shrubs, everything beautiful, and then how winter comes and how it's taken away. So all these things that in morning, then everything's disappeared. Frequently, we've had that kind of parable that comes into the Quran about take heed of that. And then later on, obviously, you have the example of the Pharaoh and everything. And inshallah, we'll go into that a bit too. It might be digressing, but I'll get to that. But then it's also coming to Judgment Day. When you are Judgment Day, all these intercessors, the idols or people or whatever, your holy man or something that you looked up to, revered, that you think they will safeguard you. No, the beautiful thing of our faith is your best friend, and this goes back to Hadith, your best friend is the one who connects you with Allah. The one who connects you, reminds you of Allah, brings you on track, they are your friends. So in fact, it was beautiful in a Sufi story that the friends who in your times of need are not there are worse than the enemy who is your enemy and always bad-mouthing you, whatever, but in your time of need, he's there. And there are many, many beautiful tales of that sort, and that's what really counts, is the one who's there to get you back on track. So that's there are many stories that keep coming up, but that's going to be digressing. But just to come back, and I like to reiterate that even if I might have mentioned it before on this of Musa alayhi salam, of look how Allah, and for us to take heed, what we think are models of success stories. And we know time and again Allah says the Fawzul Kabir, the best success is the success of Iman and that you make it to Akhirah. So always keep the long haul in mind. Always keep the judgment day in mind. So, especially when people talk about, oh, we Muslims, yes, so we haven't done any scientific discoveries these days. There's no Nobel, prize that we've received in any of the sciences or anything. It's all these people and those people and those people. Big deal. What is it at the end? Is it Allah's rida that we're asking for? So when it talks about from Judgment Day and so on, further on, it's it doesn't matter. It's where are you going with your akhirah? And so whoever can bring you back on track, and that's why be it sicknesses, be it other things, if they bring you back on track for you to reconnect with Allah, that's the best thing. So this is where the Quran usually is going. I've just given you a snippet of try and look for yourself and see how the topic is changing. It's talking about akhirah now, it's talking about this now, it's talking about this now. See what you can dwell on it. And so what the Musa alayhi salam story that I like bringing in is how that same river Nile, where the mother of Musa was inspired, feed the baby and then put him in a basket and go there. That same Nile was the source for that arrogant one, which also the Quraysh were being just as arrogant. Nobody can be better than us. We are in the centerfold of this place. So that's, he drowned in that same Nile, in that river. So that shar and khair that go together, you need to watch it. Don't get hooked on something, oh, these are the epitome of success stories. No, for each person it's different. But it's the dawah that you need to bring in. It's just you do your dawah, you walk your talk, and that is what in the Makki Quran and in the Surah Yunus we are designed to try and bring to the fore. So that's where I'll leave it. That it's a reminder on akhlaq, on tawheed and iman, and so on. So I pray that it's been beneficial for you, whatever little bit I've been able to bring. We have a whole series of these surahs, so the same things will get reiterated, but the idea is to strengthen ourselves inside and connect with the Quran better. So go home, have a look at these surahs, have a look at Surah Yunus, whatever you can bring to the fore. Come back, email me if you need to, and that's it. So with that, I'll end off. Akhiru dawahum and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun al mursaleen. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.